Like many people, I've been following the hurricane and all the floods, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. As a former whitewater raft guy, someone who is absolutely terrified of water now because I know more than I want to know about water. I want to comment on a few things here and hopefully maybe give some advice for people who don't know much about water that maybe hopefully will save you from underestimating its power one day. Knowledge is power, and also don't think that men know more about danger and how to assess that than you do. They do not, most of the time. So I worked on mostly class 3 whitewater as a paddle guide, 1 year as with oar. Sometimes it was class 4, but honestly, someone died right in front of me my first day on the Rio Grande in New Mexico. A private boater that we then had to get their body up a canyon wall after doing CPR for an hour. So I really was not interested in crazy whitewater. And then I saw another drowning my 6th year. So no thanks. I'm done. I'm done with like swift water is not fun for me anymore. It can be safe. But anyway, I will get to that more, how you can be safe on it. And since I witnessed another drowning this summer on family vacation on this beach, just right there, about 20 minutes after we took this photo, and it was literally happening while we were eating this meal. I have so much empathy for all the people who are going through all this right now, and also the people who have bystander trauma from watching other people drown. It's something that is seared into my brain forever. The noises, the sights, every detail of those moments. And so I am sending a lot of love to all the people who, they're survivors of these hurricanes and floods, who have their own, who can't even, charge their phones and don't have food. And cops are literally, God, it's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. Endless money for genocide, but none for these people who are completely cut off from resources and basic, food. Anyway, just so you know, I know what I'm talking about. I was a canoe guide on the Colorado River, a raft guide on the Snake River in Wyoming. My first year was on the Elwha River in Washington State. This is when it had a dam. And the Rio Grande in New Mexico for 4 seasons. This is the Snake River, much higher. This is about 7,000 or 8,000 CFS, cubic feet per, cubic feet per second. These floods in North Carolina were, I think, 30,000 CFS, 40,000 CFS, if I read that right. I've also been a climber for a long time and climbed in places like this. I literally took this, slept outside or in my truck for years. I have Swiftwater Rescue. Oh, it's expired now. Swiftwater Rescue, Wilderness First Response. No, water and mountains are my thing. Because of all my experience, I feel very confident in the mountains and very confident in water, and yet I'm terrified of it. And I think with everything going on, climate change, it is no one is safe from it. And flooding and surviving swift water is something that people who never thought they're going to have to deal with it are going to deal with it, because even in deserts, when and if it does rain, that the ground cannot take all of it. It can't absorb all of that water because it's so dry, which I think is one of the reasons why it was so bad in North Carolina. From what I understand, that they'd had some had a little bit of drought, so the land could not take all that. Plus all 100-year flood, whatever, just the perfect storm. Yet it's probably going to happen again. Hit by a hurricane in the mountains, hundreds and hundreds of miles away. There have been a series of stories that have just really kind of shook me this summer, because I don't know, all of this this trauma that I have around water because of 2 deaths, and then this one this summer. I didn't realize how much I hadn't really dealt with that. So I have been kind of obsessively watching water content. I don't know why. And then, of course, the algorithm knows that I'm sensitive to it, so it keeps sending me stuff. There was this story that I covered, this woman who died tubing because she had a paddleboard leash tied to her, and that literally, and then, anything that's going to cause a strainer effect, don't be attached to anything in swift water. Never, ever be attached to anything in swift water. There's also the story about those 3 hikers who did this hike. I can't believe people do this hike, honestly. It's like 7 teacups or something, whatever it's called in the Sierras. Because in Swiftwater, there's these things called whirlpools. There's the current itself, there's all these things, there's strainers, and then there's whirlpools and holes, basically, that will just suck you like a toilet bowl. There was literally a rapid on the Rio Grande in Taos called the Toilet Bowl. Like the rapid was called Big Rock, but on the left, it's the toilet bowl, and you knew no matter what, don't go near the toilet bowl. Why? Because there's an undercut rock and one of these things going around, and water is going to push you into things and get you stuck in things, rocks, debris, a wall, logs. Like you can get pinned against so many things in water. And so water is one of the most powerful forces on nature, in nature, and we don't respect it enough. And it's just out of like not enough knowledge. So maybe you will learn something from this. Don't go do stuff like this, please, unless you are very experienced. And even if you are, please wear a PFD or a life vest. This is not the first time this happened. This has happened before. But just like men especially love to do stuff like this without really understanding the danger. And that's why I always say, do not follow men into the wilderness. Do not follow their lead during a crisis. Evacuations, if they don't evacuate, you leave. No matter what, leave. Don't listen to them. These 3 young people, very fit, experienced, like, boom, all 3 drowned, like that. And I was seeing these photos coming out of North Carolina, especially Boone, Asheville, like all these areas in the mountains. If I walked out my front porch and I saw that, I would get out of my house immediately. Literally, y'all saw like literally houses being dragged down the river. I saw one where a literal coffin was floating down the river. Videos of like big burly men in water that seems pretty mild being swept downriver and people having to rescue them. The fire department having to rescue them. First, I saw this video of people who literally left all their animals and people had to go and untie them. Goats, horses, a donkey died. Like, animals can usually survive this, but not if you trap them in a cage. But if you see the videos, I want people to understand just how, like, this is crazy water. But so is this. This doesn't look like crazy water, but the current underneath this is probably way stronger than you can ever imagine. And more importantly, in stuff like this, there's debris. The debris is what's going to take your life because the water's going to push you into the debris. I'm going to talk more about strainers after I go into this really tragic story that there's a lot of lessons to take from, including do not listen to men's judgment unless they're literally professionals. And even then, a lot of times they don't know what they're talking about. But if they're like, no, it's fine, don't believe them. Rather safe than sorry. I don't know if you saw this footage, but this like whole, I don't know what this was, but the whole thing was lifted up and, you know, it looks like a river moving, literally crushing an entire building like this. That is a building. If you get pinned against that bridge, you are dead. You don't have a chance. Ask anybody who has gone rafting and fell out of the boat. Some people fall out of the boat and don't really realize how much danger they're in, but ask anybody who's gone rafting and fell out of the boat with a PFD and one with head protection, like a life vest and a helmet and a wetsuit, because hypothermia is going to also kill you. You cannot be in water. I don't care where you are. I mean, maybe in the tropics or something, but rivers are cold. Even in the warmest environment, they are cold. So you also have hyperthermia to deal with. So these people are in wetsuits, helmets, PFDs. And if any of these people who fall out in, a class 3 rapid, which is not full of debris and, and is scouted and they're guided, and the people know this river very well. Ask any of these people who fell out of the boat. Some, it's fine, but a lot of people just want falling out of a raft while rafting, unless it's in like a very controlled environment and there's an eddy or like calm water after the rapid. Ask them about water. Unless they are full of hubris and just don't understand, ask them how it felt, how powerless they felt. Imagine somebody going into water like this with debris, no guide, no warm clothing, no helmet, no PFD or life vest at 30 or 40,000 CFS. And they choose to stay in their house. like this man. Before I get into this story, therapy dog break, I just want to preface this with, I understand that not everybody can evacuate, that evacuating in itself is a privilege, but there's also nuance to that. I understand that places like Florida, I have family in Florida. I know that every time it's like, whoa, another hurricane. Like, I understand that people who live in places who have experience with things know a little bit more about it, and that we can't just be like victim blame them, being like, why don't you evacuate? But at the same time, let's put finances aside. And I mean, incarcerated people, they weren't evacuating them. They just left them to die. I hope they're okay. People in hospitals, I'm not sure what they did with all the patients. People with disabilities, much harder to flee an area. Like, there's so much to take into account in terms of asking people to evacuate and then evacuating all at the same time. Who has the gas? They're out of gas. You know what I mean? Like, this is a very complex conversation. And this, I'm not trying to victim blame this man, but I just want you to understand what the impact of one stubborn, selfish, grumpy old man, his decision has traumatized an entire community. And he wouldn't listen. Oh, you know what? And a lot of men have this, like, I don't want to do this. This is my choice. My dad used to argue with me about this, about wearing a seatbelt. You can't make me wear a seatbelt. If I want to die, that's my choice. And I'm like, okay, cool. But if someone else is driving and you're not wearing a seatbelt and they get a car accident and you die because you're not wearing a seatbelt, that person is going to have to live for the rest of their life with guilt that it's their fault when you chose to put yourself in an additional harm's way. Like, this is like it's so selfish and not thoughtful to choose to not do this, because now you've traumatized everybody who sees you injured as a result of your selfish decision, purely based on, and I'm not saying people who can't evacuate or can't this or can't, I'm saying people who just don't want to because, no, I don't want to. And it's almost always men. And they usually, if they have families, make the call for the whole family. Nope. Why do they get to make the call? You know what? If your husband or boyfriend or whatever is like, nah, I'm not, leave him. You evacuate. Leave him to deal with that flood all by himself. Take yourself, your pets, your kids, whatever it is, you get yourself out of safety, because you should not die because some man is stubborn. In this particular case, thank God this man was living alone. But let's just go into this story. This terrifying scene could have completely been avoided. So I have read this in the New York Times yesterday. This is like one of the most chilling reads I've ever. I also just want to say, anybody in these areas affected, I am so sorry. I cannot imagine what you're going through, especially people who are super isolated, cut off from the world because the roads are all like, I don't even have words for it. I just want you to know I've been thinking about y'all, and I really hope that you all have at least community and family and friends to get through this, because I just don't know. And if anybody wants to drop a link to mutual aid things, because the FEMA and the Red Cross tend to not allocate money in a way that is helpful at all a community, feel free to drop the link, and usually AI will take that link out, like the YouTube AI people, like they just moderate my comments for me a lot of times, ways that I don't like, and they usually will any websites they will immediately put into the like held for review. And I don't even check that box very often, but I will check it on this video so that I can approve those. If you have any links, please drop them in my comment for that are reputable links, okay? Because I really don't, Red Cross, FEMA, terrible. I mean, we saw what they did in Haiti, Katrina, mutual aid, verified mutual aid. Anyway, so this story starts off. The hollering went on for hours, barely audible over the roar of this thrashing French Broad River. So they had all these people, family, friends, community members, watching this man, Bruce, clinging for dear life for hours. And all he said was, help, help, help. Hours. I think it was 7 hours. I think anyway, we're going to get into it. 75-year-old man clinging to a tree, surrounded by Sorry, I dropped my mic. A torrent of murky brown water full of strainers that had just crushed his trailer home and flung him into a tree. Again, imagine water that just explodes your house like that. You don't have a chance against that water. He was less than 50 yards from the shore where all these people are watching all this. But because the river is so strong, he was basically, isolated. For roughly 7 hours, his family, friends, and neighbors looked on from a railroad tracks uphill from the edge of the surging water. They pulled out a pair of binoculars and a car's head beams, to keep a light on him. I can't imagine this man, what he was going through. But imagine watching this. 7 hours. Someone you love, clinging to a tree. And you got your headlights on them, watching them, knowing there's nothing you can do. And you can't even see them all the time, but you can hear them go, help. Listen to how traumatized these neighbors are. I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to have nightmares about it, but why wouldn't I? To hear somebody yelling help for hours and not be able to get to him, it's just sickening. So the neighbors are traumatized. So this is a town with only 800 people. And that is such a small community. And the town's pretty much wiped off the map. And no one has ever seen the river like this. Apparently there was a flood back in whatever, we'll see in a minute, that wiped the town out before. That was 100 years ago. So Bruce, Mr. Tipton or whatever, was raised in this area. So many of his relatives, right, his whole family, so many lived on the same road as him that it was called Tipton land. So this man had all his family around him, and he's the only one that died, as far as I know. It was because of being stubborn. That's literally what killed him. But more on that in a minute. Navy veteran. Yep, my dad was a Navy veteran as well, Vietnam. Also known as a grump. Not surprised. Whatever, but we love grumpy old men. We just love them. I don't know why. Well, because we do. We love humans. But at the end of the day, a lot of these grumpy old men hurt people or put other people in danger or put themselves in danger and then put an entire, search and rescue team possibly in danger because of their poor decisions. So I don't know. I have a lot of empathy for this man because this is all, why do I talk about patriarchy so much? Because this is what it does to men. This is what it does to men. And these men, thank God he didn't have a family living with him, then are responsible for all these other people perishing too. But this is this man's indoctrination, his socialization, and whatever else hasn't dealt with, convinced him that this was a good decision. And for 7 hours, he's clinging to a tree. Help! Help! This is such a frustrating story, y'all. All know men like this. A lot of our fathers, grandfathers, or even husbands or brothers or boyfriends are already like this. It's so frustrating to love men this hard-headed and this proud. So this whole community lives next to this water. And during the summertime, they go tubing, which I have more on that in a minute, because tubing is very dangerous sometimes. It can be fun, but it can also be very dangerous. And then after storms, the town knows that this river is powerful. They've never seen anything like this. They've always, the town knows to keep an eye on this river. But this one, okay, here it is. Even this may have surpassed the 1916 flood. It wiped out the town. This is important. Some longtime residents, Rollins Roads residents, people who lived on this road that was in the line of fire and comes with water, who initially dismissed the warnings to leave the area last week, ended up fleeing as the storm approached. But Bruce, who's, has weathered previous storms, apparently did not change his mind. On Friday, the river continued its advance, making an island of his low-lying plot of land. This is why when you are buying land or when you're looking for a place to live, Nashville had a huge flood not too long ago that destroyed my dad and stepmom's neighborhood. And they were just 2 feet above this flood line. Nobody was expecting this. Go and look where you are in terms of creeks, rivers. Just find out so that you are prepared with things to flee if this happens. Because at this point, we should all expect flooding to happen, even in the driest places. Flooding and fires, man. Those two things are what we are facing. And which then famine and other things. So this is the most important part of this article. This Jason guy said when firefighters came through the neighborhood that morning, he urged them to help evacuate Mr. Tipton, who was standing in his doorway. He said a firefighter told him that Mr. Tipton had already refused their aid on Thursday night. As the water continued to swirl Friday afternoon, Mr. Tipton remained in his doorway, waving to his family up on the railroad tracks at safety. All these people are safe. And he's like, no, I'm not leaving my home. And then all of a sudden, can you imagine watching this? All of a sudden, his doorway and the rest of his home disappeared in the water, leaving behind only a few pieces of foundation. Imagine just what him waving and then boom. 1 minute he's standing there in the front door and the next minute the trailer's gone, said one of his nieces, who watched in horror as it unfolded. It kind of exploded. That is the power of water, y'all. It's crazy. I have been watching so many, oh my God, for the last several months. I don't know if I'm trying to torture myself or what. I feel like it's like trying to heal from like water trauma, but I'm not sure it's actually helping. I probably need to stop. Watching from the tracks, his family all feared it for nearly an hour. So this thing exploded basically in the water, and they watched for an hour because he was lost. And then came a shout from behind a tree in the water, help! So for an hour, they're just like, didn't know where this man disappeared to. His house has exploded, and then he yells for help. And so at first they're like, oh my God, it's a miracle, he's alive. And then they realize, but there's nothing we can do. Poor family members, man. The houses on the riverbanks were flooding, and there seemed to be no way to get to Mr. Tipton. No, look, oh God. I'm so glad this man didn't die. Sorry, I don't know what these are. These are like, just pick these up. I need my pointer. That's what I need. Miss Meadows' fiance, Cody Rice, cannot swim, but he tied a cable around his waist and got up on the road of a nearby house to see if he could reach Mr. Tipton, but the cable was too short. This man who doesn't know how to swim was trying to save this stubborn, old, grumpy man. If Cody had died, if anybody else had died because of this man, people would not be like, the comment section under this article were like, how can you victim blame him? Boy, do you know what it's like to abandon? And I was like, yeah, we get all that. But look what he did to his family and community, and even his, oh my God, what am I doing? Even his, the fiance, almost. And if this man doesn't know how to swim, I promise you he doesn't understand what, like white water and swift water and how dangerous it is. I'm so glad this man did not die trying to save this old man. Imagine his guilt. Imagine his guilt that he tried and he failed. Like the trauma all these people are going to be suffering from. From the tree, Mr. Tipton continued for hours to plead for help. So this whole situation he created himself, and then people are watching him as he's begging someone to help him. And now like all these people feel awful because they can't help him, and they're watching this and they will never, ever get that image out of their head or that help. I still remember the daughter of the woman who drowned in New Mexico, my first day as a raft guide there, right in front of me. No! Like that, I will never forget that noise. I will never forget it. It haunts me. That whole scene. But her screaming no when she realized her mom was dead. I feel so bad for these people. Okay, I gotta pull myself together. Hold on. Okay. I've been realizing as I do these stories that I need to like pause for y'all too, because it's too much for me to tell these stories, but it's also hard for y'all. So hit pause if you need to. Go to the bathroom, get some water, or, turn this off if it's too much for you. Trying to encourage him to keep going, relatives called out that they had rescued his dog. I was wondering about that dog because he had a dog, and asked him if he could, if he could see them. He said he could. They're just like talking to him, trying to keep him alive, trying to keep him encouraged, because holding on to a tree for 7 hours as a 75-year-old. I mean, I don't know who can do that, even like the most fit person. Let's get some Moe's time here. As dusk neared, a group of firefighters arrived. including the country's only river rescue team. But they said that the water was too dangerous to enter and that they would return at daybreak. The family members expressed shock. Now, I understand this, being like, what? Y'all are the people who are supposed to save and you're not going to do anything? But no, I'm going to go into this in a minute. I'm going to show you some pictures as to why those firefighters absolutely could not get in that water. They told me they wouldn't put on boats on the water. I lost it, Ms. Meadows said. Mitch Hampton, an assistant chief of the fire department and leader of this river rescue team, said that the water was too turbulent for his squad, which does not have the powerful equipment that teams in larger regions do. All of the team's rescue boats are inflatable. None has a motor. That right there. That is why they could not get on that water. So if you want to, this is probably something that they had, something like this. Some of these boats have motors, but this little raft, you could not pay me to take a raft down any water this high volume with strainers everywhere. Because if any of these dudes fall out of the boat, they're probably going to die. If they're going to get swept into a strainer so fast. So them even being on the water is so dangerous. And if they don't have a motor to get them to fight the current and to navigate these currents, they just have paddles. There's no way. There is no way these people should be on water like that. So I'm glad they didn't go on the water to get him. He probably would have died. Resources we have are for normal conditions. This is nothing that any of us has ever seen before. And so at that point, Mr. Tipton's family, all they could do was watch and yell as his cries for help grew intermittent. 10:51, a time that is seared into the minds of the people who watched it happen, I bet. 10:51, for the rest of their life, they'll probably have like a trauma response. Who knows? I hope these people have the resources to get help for this. They probably don't, though. They probably don't even have food and water because it's all being sent to blow up children. Anyway, Mr. Tipton's body went limp and he fell headfirst into the water, which carried him out of sight. So it sounds like he probably just died of exhaustion. Because if it went limp, that means he immediately fell in the water. So, I don't know how anyone could hold on for 7 hours to begin with. Mr. Hampton, a Coast Guard veteran, said that if he and the other rescuers had perished while attempting to save Mr. Tipton, the entire county would have been without a river rescue team. The only river rescue team they have for the entire county is not going to risk dying to save one man who refused to leave. The team carried out several dramatic rescues in other places during the storm, he said, including 5 people from a hotel and saving 2 older residents from their home. But, of course, this was heartbreak. You know what? This kind of, it's not just the family that's upset by this. Imagine the guilt. I know that I tell you all the time, these firefighters and first responders and hero men are oftentimes a nightmare at home, but not all of them are. But even so, search and rescue, as much as I'm like, maybe don't date them or marry them unless they, you don't have a lot of trauma and addiction problems and whatever. They put their life, they're not even getting paid. Search and rescue, as far as I understand, don't get paid. A lot of fire departments in small towns, they don't get paid because they don't have the resources to actually have paid fire people, right? So the fact all these people, do not expect them to risk their life, which they're already doing, to save somebody who can't be saved. And it was all because this man didn't want to leave, didn't want to. They're dealing with the guilt, and now they're probably dealing with the guilt of this family that is traumatized, that was frustrated that they didn't help him. I hope that they understand. I'm really glad they included an interview with the the fire dudes, because if they hadn't, this would have made them look selfish and awful. And of all the stuff they saw, this was the worst. Because the family was there, and you can't do anything. You can't get to him. You just have to watch him die, basically. So then the article goes on to say, it's talking about the cleanup of the whole town. Mr. Tipton is survived by a daughter, his nieces, nephews, and a sister, Betty. 84-year-old Betty, who lived across the road from him and left before the water rolled in. Why? Because when the firefighters come to, when rescue people come to, and fire people come to your house and they're like, you need to leave, that means you are in danger. They may say okay, the evacuation force, but when they come knocking at your door and you don't leave, I'm sorry, but that's your fault. He could have gone to one of his relatives on higher land, and he did not. I know it's a lot to ask someone to leave an entire town. I know it's a lot, like, what does evacuation even mean? But they were basically, in my understanding, is telling him to get out of his house because he is in a flood zone. He is in a very dangerous flood zone. His sister, 84-year-old Betty or whatever, left because she was in danger. That doesn't mean, like, I know that it's expensive to evacuate, but like literally get out of your house. Get out of your house. You're going to die in this house. You know? Like, I know evacuation is different all the time. I had to evacuate this summer from a fire. Like a wildfire that's, and you know, I just remember being like, we evacuated. We weren't even forced to evacuate, but I was like, oh my God, I know a lot about fire, having lived in California and literally taught fire to children. I know way more about fire than I want to know, just like I know way more about water than I want to know. And there's one thing I know is get away from it. Get out of there. Get out of there. Like, it's annoying, but I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And a lot of times people, especially people who have money, and I think a lot of white people especially, we just have so much trust in like the system. As people who've benefited the most from the system protecting us, we have a lot of faith in the system and everything's going to work out and all of, you know, whatever. There's a lot of people, especially for instance, in the United States, Black people never protected. They don't have as much faith in the system. And that's why it's so fascinating to watch how much, you know, people who look like me not only don't avoid danger, but actively seek it out, you know, and myself included, without real understanding of, at the end of the day, a lot of these systems are not actually here looking out for any humans, but a lot of times, if you've ever seen the movie Chernobyl or whatever on HBO, I mean, whatever's going on in Atlanta right now, that or outside of Atlanta, that explosion with like what is it, like chlorine or something, like they're like, don't go outside, you know, maybe like turn off your ACs, because you know they always don't want us to panic. So a lot of times we're not even told how dangerous it is. So if a fireman comes to your house and is like, you're in danger, you're in danger. Okay? And if you are a woman especially, who's been socialized to trust men, follow men, center men, and let them tell you what to do, do not do that when it comes to anything involving, in general, anything, but especially nature and disasters and even medical procedures and all these things. Don't listen to them. Listen to yourself. Listen to your gut. If it doesn't feel safe, get out. I don't care if they leave or not. Get out. This poor old lady has been looking for her brother ever since. I can't imagine. So the next thing I want to talk about is how you actually don't know how you're going to respond in an emergency. But the best thing you can do is be prepared. I've told this story before. I was in this steam pipe explosion in 2008, this one, and I froze. Despite, you know, wilderness first responder, swiftwater rescue, years of, you know, literally being the leader in dangerous situation, teaching lightning position, surviving storms and all kinds of stuff that were, you know, like dangerous situation, calm, very calm in danger, which I think now is like trauma response. And in this particular one, nope, I froze. Some man was like, what are you doing? Run! When I was just like, and I left my purse full of everything. And then when I saw a man with burns, his whole skin was on the ground, and I was like, oh, I know how to treat him. But then I was like, wait, what do? I forgot everything. Because I was in New York City. I wasn't in my like normal environment of like the wilderness, the water, you know, the mountains. But even in those areas, there's kind of probably times where I might freeze there too. You do not know how you're going to act in an emergency situation. But the best thing you can do is educate yourself and be prepared and have like, a survival kit at your house full of food, all kinds of stuff. And one thing, I really hope people who live in any areas that are low-lying areas that could be flood, get yourself a good PFD or life vest. So this is the kind of PFD that guides will wear. And the only reason why we wear these is because we have to, our boats flip. We have to be in so many situations where we really need to not be, have big puffy things and some big pillow on our head. So this is actually not the safest one. Don't get one of these, especially if you don't know how to swim really well and are not good in this is more for like people who are very comfortable in water. It's, it is a good PFD, but it will not protect you. If you are knocked unconscious, you're going to drown in this probably. So notice these people, look at their vests. So there's 3 buckles. They are, you can adjust them. And I believe these have pillows in the back. There's all these different kinds of vests. I mean, these are more, the difference is this one will protect your head and keep you from drowning, and it will always flip you back over if you go unconscious, if you have anaphylactic shock, if something happens and you are not awake, you will not go face first in the water and drown with this one, whereas you could with this one. I don't really know much about these others because, obviously some of this is more like, I don't know a lot about the ocean, other than it's terrifying. The difference between a PFD and a life jacket. PFD is meant to keep someone afloat, but it does not guarantee someone from being, to turn someone over who's unconscious. So you can still drown even in the calmest water, even in flat water in a PFD if you're unconscious. Not all PFDs are jackets, but all life jackets are PFD. PFD is personal flotation device. A life jacket is designed to keep the head and mouth above water when that person is whether they're conscious or not. But they're also big and uncomfortable, and you may feel kind of silly. Wear it anyway. Here's a little bit more about that if you want to read it. For whitewater boaters should wear a type 3 or 4 PFD or life vest or whatever. The more flotation in its PFD, the bulkier it is, but the faster it will elevate you to the surface. There's one more point I want to make about the how you wear these. Not just for whitewater, this is in general. If you put one of these on and it is not super tight, you might as well not be wearing it at all, because this is what happens. This man just jumped into the water with one of these on that's not very tight and it just came right up over him. If you're in whitewater or swift water and someone is trying to grab you, they're going to grab your vest. And if it's not cinched, it's like a corset level. It should be very uncomfortable. When I was a guide, I would go around because I was so afraid of someone dying on my boat or any of the boats of people in our team. I would go around and I'd pull. People were like, God, they hated me. But I didn't want to be like, dude, you're going to fall right out of this. If you fall out of the boat and this is not this tight, we will just pull an empty vest up into the raft. And so I had a lot of enemy customers because they are so mad and then they try to loosen it up and I come back and pull it tight. So if you're going to wear one, you better make it tight or you might as well just not wear it at all. Now I want to talk about strainer. So this is a strainer. This is during whitewater, swiftwater rescue. And this is the type of strainer where this person can eventually exit. When you take swiftwater rescue, they make you go into a strainer. It is terrifying. I had to literally float into a strainer and be pinned on a log. And I was like, oh my God, no wonder why people drown. It is, think of pasta and a strainer of water. It's going to hold the pasta and all the water is going to go through, but the pasta can't go through it. It can't go through it. That's kind of basically what this does. Water is so strong, it is pushing you into something. And unless there's a way to go over it or under it, you're screwed. With swiftwater rescue, they make you stay there stuck on the strainer for a while, and then after a while, then they're like, okay, you can pass through because there's a little hole that it was set up so that we would feel the fear of swiftwater and strainers, but we just long enough to put the fear of death in us, and then they let us get out. The whole point of that course was for you to respect water and know how screwed you are. Another thing I want to point out is if there's someone in water, do not put a line straight across the river like this. Put it at an angle because they're going to do this. They're going to go right into it. Put it at an angle so that they slide like a 45-degree angle. If you're throwing please do not ever do it just straight across. Do a 45-degree angle. And this is a straight like this right here. Thing like this. Thing is with rivers, especially with these floods, you can't see this stuff. It's under the surface. Do not ever stand up in water above your knee. If the current is strong enough, it will push you over and your foot will be stuck on the rock and you will drown face down in knee-length swift water. I am not joking, y'all. Do not mess with swift water. Never underestimate its power. There's all kinds of stuff that you can buy because I really think we need to know this stuff. I think we're going to see a lot of floods. So having life vests, PFDs, especially, life vests that keeps your head above water, a throw rope, long ropes, and make sure you don't, again, if you throw it, I'm going to do a little drawing for y'all. I'm going to use the back of a Post-it, okay? You got your tree, you got another tree or the bank, and then you got your river, okay? So this is like, this is the side, this is the side, this is the river. If there's someone here, right, and they're on a rock or they're just stuck or they're in a car, if you throw them a rope, throw it like this, 45 degrees. That's about, throw things across, throw ropes, do not, this, bad, okay? I don't know, that's a terrible example. But swift water, you do not want to create something that could literally cut them in half if they float into it fast enough. Always a 45-degree angle. When you're swimming in water, 45-degree angle. You cannot fight that current. If you're trying to fight it, swim 45 degree. Dogs do it. Watch how dogs swim in water. They naturally know a ferry angle. Look up ferry angle. If you want to cross a body of water and you need to not go down there, swim up, face upstream at 45 degrees and swim across at a 45 degree angle, because then you might end up over here. But if you try to swim straight across, it's not going to work. The water, it will, but you'll go downstream. What else? I don't know. Get yourself, make sure you have batteries, make sure you have water, fill things, charge things, have batteries. Go and look at whatever it is, whether it's earthquakes, fires, or, earthquakes, whatever. It's not necessarily a climate change thing, but just be prepared. The same way I talk about how, as someone who, survivor of DV and financial abuse and all that stuff, you know what gives me a sense of security? The only, being married is not something I'd ever do. But you know why I feel very confident? Is because I have money set aside for a backup. You know what I mean? It gives me a sense of security. If he dies or God forbid something happens and he is not the man I thought he was, any of that stuff, I always plan for the worst and hope for the best and live my life, trying to be positive, but I plan for the worst. And in these times, you have to be prepared so that we have the information, the knowledge, the supplies, so that, maybe take a swiftwater rescue class. Just for your own knowledge, if you live in a flood area. I don't know, I'm throwing stuff out there. Please, in the comments, share information. People have been asking me ever since I made those drowning videos earlier this summer, can you do a video about water safety? This video is all over the place, but I'm just so upset by what happened, and yet it's nothing new. Please do not ever evacuate to a attic. If you're in a car, don't risk it. Don't drive through. If you risk it, first of all, you could die, but if you don't know anything about water damage, I've had a car that had water damage, and literally getting your car full of water in the engine is going to ruin your car. But being stuck in a car, especially if you don't have roll-up windows and you have electronic ones, just don't. It's not worth it. And don't listen to the man in the car who's like, do it. And if you're in a car with a man and he wants to do that, get out. Or fight to not have to cross that water. At a certain level, it's okay. But if if you don't have a big, heavy truck, don't be going through stuff up to your hood. You will not make it, and you will be literally like a floating coffin with wheels. Please do not underestimate water. Please, 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 please. Please do not underestimate men and their hubris and their pride and all this crap, and don't underestimate nature. Listen to your intuition, educate yourself, be prepared, and then you can actually relax a little bit. But it feels so scary, partly because a lot of us are just, again, just to go back to a marriage thing, I don't care how not romantic it is. Prenups, I've heard that a baby nump. I didn't even know about that. All these things, legally protect yourself, financially protect yourself, just and educate yourself. Be prepared for things to happen. And that is actually what gives me the ability to relax, right? And honestly, it's not, I don't want to discourage people from going on whitewater rafting trip, but if you're going to do that, for instance, look up the companies, read the reviews about go with the most reputable company and trust your intuition on that guy. A lot of men and some women are too cocky out there and they got something to prove, and then they just literally flip on purpose. I'm not even joking. And then they joke about it afterwards and call it carnage. This right here, this guide is trying to high side, which is when you put your weight on the high side of the boat. This right here is that boat is going to keep getting pulled backward. Please just respect swift water. I don't know if this was helpful. I don't know if you want more videos every once in a while like this, but you know, it felt timely given that none of these people were prepared for that kind of flooding. And you know, why would they be? I think water and fire are going to be big issues everyone's going to be dealing with. Everyone. So educate yourself about them. And please, anybody who lives in fire zones and flood zones and has dealt with this, I know I'm leaving some stuff, really important stuff out. Please drop it in the comments if you have anything to share with people, because knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. The more you know, the more I know about water, the more afraid I am of water, which is at the same time very empowering. You know what I mean? Anyway. Et voila! Please join my Patreon if you want to follow my stuff. Oh, I have a live next week with on next Thursday, October 10th, I think, whatever that Thursday is coming up, with the lawyer. She had to reschedule because she had a family emergency, but it's next Thursday. Join my Patreon to be on that. Join my Patreon just to support my work, so I can keep doing this, even when the algorithm screws me. If you can afford it, but if not, that's okay too. The free level over there too. Anyway, sorry, Mo's tapped out of his therapy dog routines, and I'm trying to respect his choice to do that. He didn't sign up for this. I think the Giselle hearings have been a little too much for him lately. That, and then his whole not being able to walk, and all the stuff that's happened this month. This has been a crazy month, y'all. Let's hope October is better. Anyway, take care of yourself, and let me know if you heard the comment song. Comment song, therapy dog edition. Moses working hard. Not really. This are old photos for the comment song for you to look at while you type stuff, which doesn't make sense. Anyway, this is not even a song. It's me just talking in a melody or whatever. I don't even know how to read music, but I play drums somehow and just joined a choir. But la 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 la, so you're gonna hear more of this. Anyway, look at Mose. He finds the most uncomfortable place to lay. And here he is. He loves his little bucket bed, even though it's ridiculous. It doesn't look comfortable. We have plenty of pillows and comforters and blah, blah, blah. But this is what he likes. He's a little masochist. Look at that little masochist. The masochist. Comment song is so weird and bizarre, but this topic is hard, and I'm trying to bring something, a palate cleanser, therapy dog. Anyway, a sleeping dog isn't that good for your heart. The comment song, anyway. Oh my God, I need to just stop. I'm tired. Anyway, here's some more dog photos, and now the comment song is ending. Okay, you can actually write your comment, but look at this sweet baby. Slip over the bucket thing and his little baby teeth. Oh, look at those baby teeth, the baby teeth. Anyway, the comment song is ending now. La 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 la. The comment song is ending now. Have a good day. Hey, let me know if you heard this. Bye.